Well, hey yourself. It's me, Joe, and I am back for another podcast episode. Episode 4. It is election season. And I voted today in the South Carolina Republican primary. Now, South Carolina is an open state. We have no need to register with a political party. So you can vote in either primary. You just have to pick one. And I did not vote in the Democratic primary this year, saving it up for the Republican primary. And it was kind of interesting that I went in there today to vote. And, you have to provide your identification, and that's fine. And I always hand them my voter registration card as well, and they never want that, which is odd to me. But so the poll worker asks, which primary are you voting in today? Now, I thought this was an odd question because there's only one. The Democratic primary was, weeks ago. So that was my first answer. The only one we have today? And she would not accept that as an answer and instead said, I need you to specify which primary you're voting in today. I said, well, it can't be the Democratic primary because that was weeks ago. She said, again, I have to ask you, which primary are you voting in today? I said, fine, the Republican primary. It's the only one there is. She said, thank you, that's the answer I needed. She then asked me to verify my address, and so I gave her my complete address, including the full zip code with the last 4 numbers attached to it. And she actually had the nerve to say, okay, that's TMI. I said, really? Well, that's ironic. I don't know how much information it is you need, because you sure seem to need a lot to just give me a ballot in the first place. Anyway, I did vote. I love voting. I've not missed an election in, as long as I can remember. I'm 60 years old. The last time I voted in a Republican primary was 2008, when I voted for and actually canvassed for Ron Paul in the Republican primary. But today I was determined to ensure that Donald Trump got at least one less vote. And so I voted for Nikki Haley. And it was also interesting that there were 3 ballot initiatives that I thought were pretty important. And so, for all of those folks who choose not to vote, thank you for giving me more power over your lives. I do appreciate it. So what I wanted to talk about today, in this, I'm sure will be one of many politically oriented episodes. The main point that I wanted to make today is that I think a lot of people don't really know where their political ideology lies. I mean, we have a 2-party system. It's a horse race every election cycle. And it becomes basically 2 people. And who do you like and who don't you like? And of course, you don't need me to tell you how polarized we've become and how much people hate the opposing party. And I never used to hate the opposing party. And I still don't hate the party. I don't hate people who have conservative viewpoints. I do hate Donald Trump, like poison. But he's the person that I despise. I don't care what he would call himself politically, I would still despise him. And it's very disconcerting that he somehow remains the Republican Party's best choice. Nonetheless, I wanted to talk to folks today who might find this podcast about ideology and where they truly align. And I think it's worth taking your time to find out if you really line up politically the way you think you do. So I'm going to encourage you to go to isidewith.com and take the quiz. Log in and take the quiz. Now, it'll take you some time, but I think it's well worth it. And what I encourage you to do, you'll find that there are questions in just about every category that we have to contend with as a society. And there's yes and no, but there are other stances. I encourage you to drop down and select the other stances because you'll have some more nuanced responses than just yes or no. You can even add your own stance if you'd like. And if you're not really sure, because there are a lot of issues that they cover on the quiz, select Learn More. And you can read a little bit about this issue in case you don't know that much about it. I find it fascinating, intellectually stimulating. You'll learn a lot, and you may be surprised where you end up. I know a lot of people who consider themselves conservative, but if you really look at what a conservative is, there's a spectrum. I mean, are you so conservative that you don't think women have the right to vote or should drive? Probably not. So you're not that conservative. Where do you fall on the spectrum? And are there other candidates, other parties that might better reflect and align with your political beliefs and what you think is important? That's the other thing on the quiz that I highly suggest you use. And I've taken this quiz many times, and every time I try to take it, I try to get a little more specific and a little more detailed. So, in addition to other stances and learning more, there's also a place for you to rank how important a particular issue is to you. And I encourage you to use that because it will change the result a little bit. I mean, let's face it, if something is just not that important to you, then it isn't, and you should say so. It may be really important to you. You may think it's the most important issue. Well, say so. And that will kind of impact, to a certain degree, who you align with, which party best represents you. So you can get a better understanding of where you really are. Because even though we only have two parties, primarily, that we can vote for, Democrats and Republicans, there's lots of other parties. And I was fascinated to see my results. I mean, there are parties here I've never heard of. I mean, I knew I was pretty left leaning, so that didn't surprise me. But that I'm most closely associated with the Green Party and the Socialist Party surprised me a little bit. But when I read their platforms, specifically the Green Party platform, man, I said, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything on here. I guess this does best reflect me. Now, I do still align quite a bit with the Democratic Party, just not as much, but 84% aligned. So I'm not saying I'm going to vote for a Green Party candidate or a socialist, but I probably would vote Democratic, right? But there are lots of other parties. Peace and Freedom Party, the American Solidarity Party, Libertarians, I'm sure you've heard of. And of course, down at the bottom of my list is the Republican Party. It is literally the lowest party affiliation in terms of alignment with my beliefs, which is kind of surprising. I mean, there's very little about the Republican Party that I can agree with, especially today's Republican Party. But I never would have thought that parties I'd never even heard of, like American Solidarity, the Forward Party, the Transhumanist Party, that these parties would be more aligned with me than the Republican Party. It's a little surprising. But you can also look at your ideologies specifically and where they align. I'm not surprised. I'm not at all surprised that I align with Marxism. If you look at Marxism, from a practical standpoint, I don't think it works, and I think we've got quite a bit of evidence that it doesn't work. But it does. There are some interesting characteristics to it. I mean, a classless society where you don't have elites, and you try to equalize things for everyone and provide healthcare for everyone and education for everyone. No people should be more powerful than other people. It's kind of a nice utopian idea, isn't it? By the way, utopian socialism is also an ideology which I'm pretty much aligned with. So these things, again, aren't surprising to me, but I think it's the degree to which they are that surprised me a little bit. And I think will surprise you. And I really hope and encourage you to do that. Again, it's isidewith.com. Log in there, answers as many questions as you can. There's more under each category. You could just hit the highlights if you'd like. And I think the first time I did it, that's what I did. I just hit all of the top questions. But if you really want to spend some time and get some nuance and learn more about the stuff that is on the agenda of our legislators, I encourage you to drop down and answer all the questions. See what you get. And then, of course, share your results. Because leading by example, I think, remains the most effective way of leading. You shouldn't be afraid to let people know where you stand, especially if you have taken the time to really flesh out your beliefs and understand where you lie on the spectrum. And it makes it a lot easier when you go vote. I mean, I'm going to vote for the person and or the party that is going to do what's in my best interests and in my family's best interests and in the people that I care about best interests. That's primary. Secondary is going to be for what's in the country's best interests. And you don't even have to be a political science major to understand that the Constitution starts out pretty clearly as to what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to form a more perfect union. We are collectively going to try to do some things that are impossible to do individually, like provide for the common defense, establish security and justice, and most importantly, I think, is to promote the general welfare. And if you think about promoting the general welfare, promoting is an action word. It's not sit back and see how it goes. We're promoting the general welfare. So again, if I'm going to go vote, I'm going to go in there educated because I've taken the time to read up on all the issues. After all, the founders really depended on a well-informed populace in order for this experiment in self-governance to be successful. So get informed, and the I Side With quiz is a great way to do that. Get informed, understand where you lie, and then set your priorities. And again, for me, it's easy. It's what's in the best interest of me, my family, the people that I care about, and then right after that, the country as a whole. Are we promoting the general welfare and providing for the common defense and establishing security and justice for all of us? Vote accordingly. It shouldn't be that difficult. It really shouldn't be this polarizing. I wish it wasn't. It's turned into what almost feels like worldwide wrestling. And sometimes I really think people would like to see one candidate hit the other one with a chair. Let's hope it doesn't descend to that, although on the House floor it seemed to have almost gotten there a couple of times. So anyway, that's it for today. Quick one. I voted, so this is on my mind. And I hope to encourage all of you to vote as well, whether it's in your primary or any local special elections you might have. And then, of course, the general in November. So until next time, when I come up with another topic to talk about, this is Joe, and I am out.